Good day everyone. Welcome to the weekly online classes for learning smart contract on Bitcoin SB with a script. So in today's class we are going to learn how to deploy and call a contract. So in our previous lessons we have write a demo contract, and this is it, and we have write a local test for it in our previous class, and it has passed all the local tests. So today we are going to test it on a testnet, and we will deploy it and interact with the contract. So without wasting much of our time, let's move on. So for us to deploy this contract, we must use a node provider and a signer. A provider is an abstraction of Bitcoin node that provide us with read and write access to the blockchain, while a signer is like a private key that signs the message or transaction. And a simple signer is just like a private key, while a complex signer is like a wallet, like Testnet wallet or Test wallet or something like that. So let's move on. So let me function, let me call the function main. So what we are going to do first is to compile our contract. Our contract. So how do we compile our contract? We'll compile it by await contract name, which is demo, and this is the file path of the contract, demo, then .compile. This function will compile our contract so that it will be compiled to Bitcoin script so that we can interact with the contract. Then after compiling our contract, we are going to get the provider and the signer, but for this lesson we are going to just make everything to be short so that we will understand it better. So let's get our contract instances. So let instance equals new demo. So we are going to initialize our contract instance. That means we are going to pass in the value of x and y. In our previous contract we have write a contract that will accept two integers and multiply them, and for you to interact with the contract you must provide the product of that two integers. So let me say the value of x to be 2 and value of y to be 4. So this is our contract instance. And we can easily connect our instance with a signer. So in this video I want to make everything to be simple. I'm using a default signer. So how are we going to do that? We are going to do that by by await instance dot connect, then our signer, let me use get default signer. So to keep things very simple, let me use this one, default signer. So this is the signer, and after connecting our contract instance with the signer, we can easily deploy our contract. So how do we do that? Let me say const deploy transaction is equal await my instance dot deploy, call the deploy function, and it receive an argument of a number of satoshis to be locked in this contract. So let me say one.
Block in the
Please, Mike. So we have get our contract instance, we connect the instance with the signer, and we are going to deploy our contract right now. So this function, this single line will deploy the contract, and it will be deployed on chain. We can even see the transaction on a block explorer. So let me write it on console.log. It's a contract demo, deployed successfully. So we have successfully deployed our contract, and we can get our contract deployment transaction ID. So that's it. So let me describe this smart contract on Testnet. So let me use a sync function. So it show so we can get our, we can even, there is no need for, we can await our main contract. So that's it. So let me run this so that we can deploy our contract. Oh, sorry. Okay, so we are going to run it by writing npm run testnet. So by default it will go into this folder test and go to testnet directory and look for this file and run it. So we are deploying the contract right now, and after deploying the contract we are going to check the transaction on what's on chain, which is the blockchain explorer. So let's wait for a seconds. The contract will be deployed. Oh, fasten. And I expect the transaction ID. Let me wait and see. So before it get deployed, if you have any question in the code, please ask before it finishes. Do you have any question to ask, please? Please ask questions. Do you have any question to ask, please? Hello? Ask question, please. Are we together? Hello? Can you hear me?
We can hear you. I can hear you.
We can
Okay,
hear
do you
you.
have
I
any
can hear
question to
you.
ask, please?
No, I can't.
No, I can't. I came late. I came late, so I don't know
When you started.
when you started. Where you started?
Okay. So it is taking too long, and but now it seems like it is going. So this is my address, and this is the balance of satoshis in it. So I'm waiting for the contract to be deployed on chain. So my contract has been deployed. As you can see, contract demo deployed successfully, and this is the deployment transaction ID here, this one. So I can copy it. This is my transaction ID. So let me copy it. So before we go to the blockchain explorer, let me still explain this very simple code. It is just a still line. So we deploy this contract on chain, and what we did is we compile the contract. After compiling the contract, we get the contract instances, and these instances is we initialize the parameters of the constructors here. So after that, we connect this instance with a signer, which is a default signer, and we deploy it on chain by locking 1 satoshis in the contract, and we display it to the console, the transaction ID. So we got the transaction ID. I already copied it. So let's go to what's on chain and see our transaction ID and information about the transaction. So let me in my browser. Okay. Can you see my browser?
Yes.
Okay, you can see the
Yes.
browser.
Yes, sir.
Okay, what's on chain
Yes, sir.
here? So this is what's on chain, and this search bar, you are going to paste your transaction ID here. So I copied it already, and I will. So this is our transaction ID, and there are many information about it, and this is my address that deploy the contract, and this is a script hash, and because it was just deployed, it is unconfirmed, and you will get many information about the contract with this transaction ID. So you can even do a lot of stuff, and you can even verify your contract here.
I can't see the browser.
I can't see the browser.
You said that you can see the screen, the browser, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, are we
Yes, sir.
together?
Yes, sir. I can't see the browser.
Yes, sir. I can't see the browser. The screen.
Hello, sir. I can't see your browser.
So let me see what I can do. Share my browser. So can you see it now?
Now it's
I think it's okay now. Actually, I'm
So what I have done
still on transit.
is I follow this site, the Blogs Explorer, test.whatsonchain.com. This is the Blog Explorer, and in this search bar you can paste your transaction ID and you can search for the transaction information. So this is the transaction, it was deployed, and this is my address, BSB address that deployed the contract, and this is the script hash. So it just got 2 confirmations and everything is here. So we have successfully deployed the contract. So let's go back to the code so that we have successfully deployed the contract. Do you have any question to ask about the signer, the instance, or the deployment transaction ID? If there is not any question, I think we should continue, right? Hello?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
So we can call the contract. Let me say const transaction. This should be the called transaction. Will be called await instance, our contract instance dot methods dot then the name of our public method. So let's go back to the contract, and this is our public method, and the name of the public method is what? Is public. So let's go back, dot is public, and this is it, and we are going to pass in the right argument of 2 times 4, which is equal to age. Do you understand? So after that, we are going to write the transaction ID on the console. So this one line is the one that calls the contract. This line is one that interact with the contract. You just interact with the contract with single line of code. So you can write it on the console, console.log contract demo called successfully and you can get the transaction ID by call transaction.id. So the contract, with this line you call the contract and you are writing the transaction ID with this one. So let me clean up this and oops. So let me just leave it like that, and so this is it, and you can save it and rerun it. So this time, after it deploy the contract, it is going to call the contract and it shows the deployment transaction ID and also the calling transaction ID. So before it finish, please, if you have any question about this, you have to ask. Please ask questions. Do you have any question to ask?
I don't have questions.
Okay, it's great. That means you understand everything here.
for others. Let them ask.
Hello, sir.
Please ask
Can you
question.
hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Well, okay, well, not really a question, but actually I'm on transit. So I'm just following the audio. By God's grace, if you're able to release the video, then I'll follow properly. If there's any question, I will drop it.
Okay, so I will upload the video. You can watch it later. Yes. So please ask question. If you have any question, please ask. No question? So that means it is great. So we have just deploy and call a contract with just 19 line of codes, and we compile the contract, we get the contract instances, connect the instance with the signer, we deploy it on chain, and we call it. So we all get the transaction ID. If you look at this deploy transaction ID, is this variable dot id. So this deploy transaction, we got its ID, and even this one for the call. So as you can see, this is public, is a public function, and the argument is age. So let me go back to the contract and show you something. So in the contract here, we say that the assertion method, the assertion should make sure that the value of this z is what is equal to the what, to the product of this x and y. And here the product of x and y is 8 because x is 2 and y is 4. I hope you get me right and understand what I'm trying to do. So as you can see, the contract demo deployed successfully, and we get the transaction ID again, and we are going to get the calling transaction ID right now in a matter of seconds. So I hope you understand it, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask me and interrupt me at any time. And this is the calling transaction, this is it. And you can also check it on what's on chain. Let me copy it and let me share my browser screen. Oh, sorry. So let me so can you see the browser now? So let's go to what's on chain and press the transaction ID here. So this is it. So we have already interacted with the contract, and there we go. We got script hash as input, and we got everything. So if you have any question, please ask. If you don't have any question, then we'll call it a day, and we'll meet in our next class.